I'm exhausted, annoyed, devastated, proud, and bewildered after this 3-point win the Timberwolves get at home against the Thunder. This was the 1 seed in the West, the Wolves, versus the 2 seed coming in tonight, Thunder. The Thunder were as healthy as they've been. Wolves were missing Jaden McDaniels in this game to start it, and then would have some Anthony Edwards problems where he would not play most of the third and all of the fourth. We'll talk about it. It was such a chaotic cluster of a game. Let's start with the two massive good things that carried the Wolves through this game. We'll start with Troy Brown Jr. I've talked about in multiple videos in a row that he has to be getting more minutes, that he's the person on the bench that's really hauling ass and earning his minutes, and then it really came to fruition tonight. 12 points in the fourth quarter, season high in points in this game. He was fighting for rebounds, not a ton in this game, but they're all heavily contested. Drew some fouls in the fourth quarter that were huge. Hit a big-time pull-up three, closing layup that was contested. Final contest on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's tying three-point attempt. And 1 of 2 from the line at the end of the game, but still, he was enormous, as well as playing great defense. The other person that you can put both of those attributes along with is Rudy Gobert. This was a Rudy game, my God. He was all over Chet Holmgren on the defensive end. Chet has been so impressive this year, and Rudy made everything that he did just uncomfortable. His contests were unreal, making even three-point jumpers where it looks like Chet has a lot of space and is such a tall person, almost can always get that off without a problem. Rudy made all of that tough for him, and he took this personal. He was super physical down low, 6 offensive rebounds. Can't remember how many he had total for the game. I think it was 16, and he just planted himself in the middle of the lane whenever a shot was going up, and he was just snagging board after board, and that's what we needed to do against this team. 15 more boards than the Thunder in this one, although they would still have 12 more shot attempts than us because the Wolves were still a disaster on the offensive end. 19 turnovers in this game compared to the Thunder's 8. 6 of those turnovers coming from Karl Anthony Towns, who was a mess in this game, only gets 8 shot attempts. He just can't figure out when to use his size in the appropriate ways. He always wants to post up so far away. If he gets double teamed, his decision making is at just minimal speed, so it's often a turnover when he passes it, or people just aren't open because he can't process things fast enough. And he just owned the kicks at all stops, and I'm so sick of the cat experience. He's such a great player. There's so much that can work with him, and he is ultimately frustrating. So we're playing this great Thunder team that are 2 in the West, and I heard Jim Pete say on the podcast, no one expected them to be this good. I predicted my Western Conference standings with them finishing the year at number 2, so I sure did. Not that that means they'll finish that. There's a lot of season left, but this Thunder team's legit. And for us to have played such a terrible game for the most part and missing firepower from such significant players, it's incredible that we still pull out that win. We start out the game slow again, down 29-19 after the first quarter, getting beat on back cuts constantly. Additionally, a lot of wide open threes for the Thunder in that first quarter not going down, so it's fortunate that we were only down by 10. And then when we get to the second half, Anthony Edwards does what he's been doing this year. He just takes over. 10-0 run for Anthony Edwards alone, and he is feasting, taking control, and then just elevates to try to make a poster play because he's got to be the hero for this team, and falls from like near max vert onto his hip, and he has to take some time to gather himself, ends up coming out for the rest of the game. We even make him play like 3 extra possessions instead of just calling a timeout or fouling after that when he obviously can't move, which is another thing that just had me screaming. I'm like, none of this is worth it. Get the franchise off the court when he can't move. This was an emotional game for me. Really wish we would have had Jaden, the other half of the franchise, in this one as well, to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's just incredible. He was not missing anything in the first half. We started to double him a lot more frequently in the second half, as well as mixing in a lot of zone defense, which has been good for us all year, and a nice part of our repertoire to move in and utilize our length. However, as we ran the zone longer, the Thunder started to figure it out. They passed the ball extremely well, very quickly, and eventually they'd get to the point where we would have to have Gobert rotate out to a 3, which never happened, and multiple times that ended up in wide open buckets for the Thunder. Also got to recognize Naz for a great game in this one of the best we've seen from him recently, hitting his threes in this game as well. Had some big fourth quarter points as we had Cat on the bench for a decent stretch there to close the game, and it was something that I like to see a lot, because what we needed in Cat in that situation with no Anthony Edwards was just to make some simple plays, and especially punish this Thunder team, who's one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. They struggle with size. Even their big Chet is skinny and just weaker than our bigs, so we got to play some bully ball, and at some point just say spacing be damned when you're that much bigger with the personnel that we have too. And Naz did this well. When he has an open 3 in the fourth quarter, rips it, or just a hook shot over Shea, spin move, hook shot on the other side of the basket. Like, sometimes you just need the simple quick play, and Naz does that. Cat, his mind just explodes a lot of the times, and he tries to do too much, and he gets warped in his mindset of, am I a perimeter player, am I not? And he doesn't use the proper advantage when he has it, and it's driving me nuts. Let me get off this topic. Mike Conley, we may have had 19 turnovers today. He had 0. 0 turnovers with 8 assists, and he struggled with his jump shot in this one. Still seems incapable of making a 2, which is so strange. I don't know how his floaters aren't better with how good he's been with that shot his entire career, but Conley just being the only trustworthy person on this team, as usual, no turnovers. Kyle Anderson was a bit of a mess in this one too with 4 turnovers, although made some good plays. He also is mind-boggling on offense, completely unwilling to shoot jump shots in this year, and bench shooting power is just not there, especially when you look at Shake Milton. I've realized he's kind of like, I had mentioned he was going to be like Jalen Noel from last year, but he was averaging slightly more points, slightly better three-point shooting, slightly better assist numbers, so maybe Shake would be an improvement. He's like Jalen Noel without the big games right now. Like, he still only can score in like the close mid-range. His three-point jump shooting and catch and shoot shots look horrible, and we're just not getting any explosion from him. And he's a high turnover player, bad defender, and he's not rebounding the ball like Jalen Noel did. So we don't really have the positives that Jalen brought a lot of last year, but we're getting kind of the same negatives of the jump shooting being horrific and the consistency not there. Maybe Shea can turn it around. It just looks like he is out of sync with the entire team, though. Okay, after that gigantic jumble of probably mostly disconnected thoughts, Timberwolves got the win. We're still the 1 seed, 13-4, and we did it without giant contributions from probably our 3 best players, because Ant out for a lot of it, Cat horrible, and Jaden not playing. So, wow. We're still managing to make plays, pick up wins, when there is such an enormous gap for improvement. So I guess that's a good thing. But oh my, is it still stressful and frustrating. You can't even speak correctly with how it's going.